Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting for the Planning and Zoning Commission of Carroll County, February 5th, 2025, meeting to order.
Mr. Kane? Mr. Huff?
Here.
That 5 members are present and we do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I have approval for the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. You have been sent the minutes for December 4th and December 17th. Have you had a chance to review them? I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we approve both the minutes of December 4th and December 17th, 2024.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, minutes stand approved as read. Number 6, administrative report.
Good evening. I have just a couple of things. First, I wanted to remind everybody of the master plan open houses that are happening. And lo and behold, our first one is tomorrow evening, afternoon, evening. It's at Carroll Community College. Scheduled time is 1 to 7. We are optimistic that it will go off as planned, but of course, weather pending. Right now, our plan is to obviously follow what the community college is doing. If the community college opens late, but is open by the time the open houses are scheduled, then they'll proceed as planned. If the college is closed, then we will not hold the open houses, and we do have, or the open house, and we do have a snow date that we've set aside, and we'll communicate out about that. So the first one is tomorrow for District 3. We have 5 of them scheduled. We've shared information with you all about where and when those are, and I would encourage you to come to as many as you can. They are open houses, drop-in events. There's no set program, so whatever time is convenient and whichever date, you'll get the same information at all of them. So just wanted to remind you of that. And then as well, we have some updates on, if I could ask, oh, he's here. Hi.
Yes. I snuck up.
Chris is going to give some updates on a few solar projects that are underway. And then Chair Kirkner had asked for just sort of an update on the status of the Ethiopian church. So he's going to provide that as well.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. So regarding solar projects, as you know, there are 8 projects in the county that are currently going through the CPCN process with the Public Service Commission. Of those 8 projects, the one that's furthest along is called Pine Rock Solar. It's a project out on Sullivan Road. The law judge issued a draft decision, which was a denial. However, it was due to some inconsistencies with the decommissioning plan. And she gave the applicant the opportunity to amend that plan and resubmit it. The overall, I've read through her draft decision. I'd say the feeling that I get from the decision is that once they amend the decommissioning plan, that she's going to then approve the certificate. The second one that's in process is called Bear Branch Solar. That's located just north of Westminster off of Lamb Drive. That one, the law judge has issued a draft or a preliminary approval. Essentially, if nobody appeals that decision between now and March 4th, on March 4th, it'll be official. So that'll be an approval. The next two are the ones located on Fanny Dorsey Road, which are the ones that the Board of County Commissioners in the county have filed to intervene. And so those have a slightly longer process because there are entities that have filed to intervene on that. And so there's more activity with that before those will be approved. And then there are four more that are that are further back in the queue. So that's what's going on with solar projects. I would anticipate that after March, the Bear Branch Solar, they will be reaching out to our department and they will begin the development review process. So we'll start with our normal process, a pre-submittal technical review committee, work through concept plans, and then we'll be before you all with the concept plan. So it'll work through the normal site plan process. So that's it. Any questions on the solar projects? So Ethiopian Church, you may have noticed that there was an article in the newspaper this week. So from our perspective, from development review, you may remember that it's probably been over a year ago they were here for concept plan review with you all. They have since been working on their final plan. They are still working through the process of finalizing that. There are, I believe, 3 or 4 agencies that still have some comments that are being addressed. Once they address all those comments and final approval from all technical agencies, we will be bringing them before you for final approval. And I have made the mental note that there was a request by the Planning Commission to go on a site visit prior to the meeting. So we will work to schedule that as soon as we know that we're scheduling them for it to come before you all. The newspaper article relates to 2 issues. One is the forest conservation plan. Some citizens have appealed the approval of that plan. And then there are some specimen trees that are located on the property, and the developer went through the normal process of requesting a variance for removal of those trees, and I did approve that variance request, and my decision is being appealed to the BZA. So that BZA hearing started last week, and then there's been a continuance, probably going to be scheduled for March. But that does not hold up the process, the development review process, so the developer can continue with finalizing all the comments and so on. So, any questions on the Ethiopian Church?
Yeah, Chris, and
Yes.
this question might come up later, but when you're citing things in the ag zone, and this came up in a conversation, I understand that maybe our delegation was pushing to have the buildings and the site changed to a closer spot toward the road. But when you do a site plan on in an ag zone, aren't we looking to save as much farmland as possible? And so if there's land that's not farmable or not desirable to be farmed, wouldn't it be more prudent to go there first, or doesn't it matter? I mean, maybe I should be asking this at a later date,
Yeah.
but there's been some discussion about moving all the things that they want to do, their buildings and everything, closer to the road. When I looked at that site on an ortho, all the good farmland is closer to the road. The lesser farmland and the rougher land is on back where they're thinking about putting these buildings, and I'm a little concerned about that, because the important part to me is ag. Isn't that the ag zone? So I just wanted to bring it up. I think we'll be talking about this maybe later. I don't know if we will at this, on this board here, but I want to make sure we understand that we're trying to save as much ag land on ag remainders or in the ag zone as possible.
Yeah. So,
So just a thought,
yeah.
question. I don't
No,
know if you should comment on it or not, but
no, so,
you know
before.
where I'm coming from with
I
this?
do, absolutely. And before Liz comes over here and kicks me because to talking about an active BZA case, I can't comment on the case, but
Is this part of the BCA, this
yes.
conversation,
Case is,
Liz?
it's also currently in circuit court on the same underlying issue as well.
Yes.
So this is part of the issue.
Yes. So,
So it's
so
not about 3 trees, it's more than that.
yes. So
Okay.
can't really speak to that, but all I can say is that property owners do have rights for what they can do on their property, and a religious establishment is an allowable use in ag, and that's what they're proposing. And then how they propose to site, where they site buildings, what they're proposing to develop, that's entirely up to them. That's all I can really say at this point. But I appreciate the sentiment.
Well, yeah, I mean, okay, I better. I understand, Liz, I'm with you.
I will say, having been here for the previous meetings, it was extremely contentious. So,
Yes.
were you,
I was here when the first one, yes, ma'am, I was.
okay.
But
yeah.
I just want, you know,
So I am,
I'm
and
gonna
maybe
say
you
more.
can or can't answer this. Are the specimen trees in the way of some construction or septic or?
Yes, so the, and I think it's public record as far as my variance and so on. So the specimen trees are located very close to the existing buildings. And what the church is proposing to do is utilize the existing buildings and expand them a little bit. And obviously, with the church that they want to construct, they need parking, they need stormwater management, they need septic, and so on. And those trees are right there where the existing buildings are. So they're very much in the way of the intended use of the existing buildings. And so that was the primary reason for my issuance of the variance, is that, in my opinion, they would not be able to use the property for what they want to without disturbing those trees.
Okay, so in saga will continue,
Yes,
sure. Okay, thank you.
absolutely. Anytime.
Appreciate that. And before we go any further, I just want to remind us that we do have open mics, so if there is any conversation between us after something, we need to be aware of that.
So my profanity in the past has been caught.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I do have, while we're under this section, I have one thing I wanted to ask. Since I was here last, I did miss the last meeting, I got 2 calls regarding the resolution we passed, asking when the subcommittees would be formed, and, you know, it was kind of a embarrassing conversation, because somebody said, okay, so what's the housing subcommittee going to talk about? Well, housing. And, you know, so I didn't really have much direction as to what that would entail. So is this something that we are going to come up with? We're going to direct the subcommittees as to what it is they're to, we would like you to come back with recommendations on economic development, agriculture, and housing, and you know, you can talk about what you want to, but we would specifically ask that you provide us with guidance or comments, recommendations on these things. Are we going to give that to those subcommittees?
Yeah, so my hope is to be able to have at the March evening meeting an outline of what the work groups will be asked to do, as well as some names for you to consider for folks to serve on those
Great.
work groups. I wanted to make sure that we had the resolution passed so that we could start organizing those. But sort of in the middle of that is all of the preparation that we've been doing for the open houses. So,
Absolutely.
and the hope is that those work groups then would be formed and undertake their work in the spring.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And there's one administrative thing that I just wanted to give you a heads up. The legislative session is underway. I think the final date to file bills in the House is either tomorrow or maybe Friday. Is it Friday? Okay, it's Friday. So Brenda Dinny, who kind of tracks all the legislation on the planning side of things, will be coming to you starting next meeting on the February, I think it's the 18th, to just kind of let you know what's out there, what seems to be moving, what the different aspects of the proposed legislation are. And so I just wanted to let you know that we'll be coming to you with that starting at your next meeting.
Thank you. Okay, item 7, the Citizens Planning Academy. Mr. Gray, you're up.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Good to see everyone today, or this evening. Just wanted to come before you and just give a very brief update on what this new Carroll County Citizens Planning Academy entails. As Commissioner Gordon knows, we came before the Board of County Commissioners, I believe it was January 2nd, with some information on the grant for the Citizens Planning Academy. But in a real general sense, the Citizens Planning Academy, we're trying to foster a sense of, I guess I would like to say, well, try to get people out and knowing about how their government works, at least through the planning, development review, and a little bit of the permitting side of when plans come before you, how that is reviewed, how just the government planning process, what that entails. So people can either become, and there's 4 goals that we hope citizens can get out of this. Number 1, just becoming an informed citizen. Number 2 is maybe they would like to become a community advocate and be able to take information that they gathered from the Citizens Planning Academy and be able to talk to people in different clubs and fraternal organizations about projects that come through the county. Maybe some people would like to be you on this board and become a volunteer board or commission member, or as like Commissioner Gordon, maybe people would like to become future elected officials for the county. The Citizens Planning Academy will have 6 different classes, sessions over a period in late March to May 1st. And the Academy, those 6 classes, starting with getting a general overview of the Bureau, or sorry, the Department of Planning and Land Management. And then looking at the more long-range planning, the more general planning, getting an overview of the Bureau I'm in, the Bureau of Comprehensive Planning. And then looking at long-range issues, the master plan. And also when all this is happening, they'll have a hands-on exercise with a commercial project we're proposing that people take information and cite a commercial project through the zoning process. Can this be located on this property? Then take it through the development review process. How would it be located on the property? All the way to people coming and sitting as the planning commission in your role and people presenting to their peers in the academy as the planning commission, and getting a sense of what the planning commission looks for when they review and approve plans. So the second course will be on comprehensive planning. The third course will be more on zoning and law, but law meaning very general sense, like the large Supreme Court cases that govern planning, like Village of Euclid versus Ambler Realty, large cases like that. And that case is Supreme Court ruled back in 1926 that zoning is constitutional, and maybe even the Penn Central test for Penn Central case for takings. And then the fourth class will look at the development review, permitting, and also planning commission. So we're hoping we can have one of you, hopefully maybe even Madam Chair, to come and just give a brief overview of planning commission. Then the fifth class will be a day where we go out to a local development site, and people in the academy, students, will be able to see hands-on how from a developer that's been has been in the process, going through the process, get their take on county development review permitting process, so people can get firsthand exposure from someone who's going through this process. And then the sixth and final day will be sort of it will be a graduation ceremony where hopefully be able to give people certificates and answer any final questions that they may have. So I know I threw a lot out there. If you have any questions, please let me know, but that's just the basics of this Citizens Planning Academy, to foster civic pride, try to get people involved. So when people become alumni, we hope to put them on a planning alumni list, and they can act as hopefully our eyes and ears and advocates for the work Carroll County government does in planning, zoning, development review, to be able to curtail any misinformation or stuff out there. And we can maybe even call on them for work with master plan and different things like that. So really the big goals, once again, from this is either people can become informed citizens, community advocates, volunteer board commission members, or aspiring elected officials. Thank you very much, everyone. Sorry, my mouth is getting a little dry now. But if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could just note, the applications for the Planning Academy are opening tomorrow. They'll be open for about 2 weeks. And we are taking applications because our hope is that we can get a good equal representation around the county, and that we have folks who are participating who are going to really be able to sort of leverage the experience there. So we'll see how many applications we get and how that process goes. If it's exceptionally well received, then I would anticipate having some additional future cohorts. So even if we're flooded with applications, we can't take everybody. There may be an opportunity to have some of those things again in the future. As Drew said, the sessions are supposed to start in sort of mid-late-ish March and run through the first week in May. So I believe there is information on the county website with a link to the application where people can apply.
Thank you. I wish that there was something like that before I started, rather than just getting thrown in. But I thought I knew a lot before I got here, and I have learned a tremendous amount since. So I look forward to this class. And with that, we do have some public here. Before I open it for any questions or statements, I want to make certain that speakers know they must sign in to make public comment. They must state their name, address, and talk into microphone to facilitate audio and video recording. Comments will be strictly limited to 3 minutes per speaker. It is not a question and answer session. If you have questions, you can direct them to the staff after the meeting. And if any individual fails to comply with these rules, I may call them out of order and require them or her to leave the meeting. With that, is there any public comment for item number 7? You're a quiet group tonight. Okay. Thank you. And thank you, Andrew. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. On to number 8, the master plan, municipal planning presentation, Union Bridge.
So we have Ned Cuman, who is working with the town of Union Bridge on their planning efforts. He's going to, Ned, you want to come on up? And as we've been going through laying the groundwork for the master plan, one of the things that you all have talked a lot about is the need to understand what the municipalities' plans are, because we recognize that municipalities in Carroll County are significant partners in helping to achieve both the county vision for land use and development and preservation, those sorts of things, as well as they have their own planning and zoning authority, and so they have their own plans and various things that they're responsible for exclusively. There are also things that we work on in close partnership between the municipalities and the county. So we've invited all of the municipalities to come and share a little bit about what their plans are, what their greatest challenges are, what their opportunities are, and especially where there may be some opportunities for collaboration or coordination, especially as we go into this master plan. So, so our first taker was the town of Union Bridge, and I'll let Ned introduce himself, but he's here representing the town of Union Bridge. Thank you, Ned.
Thank you. Well, who is it that says it's good to be back? I can't remember. I've heard this said before. It's been a while since I've been in here. But I've been in here many times. I'm working with the town of Union Bridge. I'm near the end of my working with the town of Union Bridge, but I say that because I'm under the gun. My better half has said, you know, it's really time for you to take your shingle down. But Union Bridge is, I guess, as good as any of the towns of trying to use county resources that are available. Back when the county liaison program started, I was county planning director, and it's wonderful to see over the years these young planners come to the towns. And when we first started that program, I remember not preaching, but saying to the people who were on the county staff who were going to have responsibilities working with the towns that you're there to help the towns in any way you can, within the confines, of course, of the county budget and so forth. But you're not there to spy on the town or anything like that. You're there to help, and then if you are helpful, they will depend on you. And this will help the county and the towns be closer together. When I first came up here to Carroll County in 1971, I never realized how separate the municipalities were from the county. There was very little interaction, and I wasn't accustomed to that because I had been county planning director in Worcester County, and there are only 4 municipalities down there. But they were pretty interactive with the county commissioners in Worcester County. So that's the way it is sometimes. Things were a little provincial, but with this liaison program, it really changed. And it got to the point where the county commissioners and the mayors and sometimes council members would meet quarterly here in the county office building. This was a regular thing. And an outgrowth of it was that planning was actually done mutually. So for example, I'll just say, if Mount Airy was due to update their comprehensive plan and the county was thinking of doing it, usually the county was a little more on a timetable that we need to do a comprehensive plan and we need to do that together. But then the towns and the county work together, the whole proceeding. So when hearings were held, you had the 2 bodies sitting there listening for their respective jurisdictions. And so plans were adopted simultaneously. And that was a good thing. So we had broken down that provincial, the towns going this way and the counties going that way. But as we all know, the world changes. It doesn't always stay the same. Nothing is static. And, but I will say that still the county has, from my vantage point, done an awful lot of, they've been very good at working with towns. It's different. The towns are doing stuff separately and individually. Like, for example, that's why I'm here tonight, just to share with you where we are in Union Bridge. We've almost completed our update of our comprehensive plan. It's we call it the 4th Amendment to the 2008 plan. The last time we amended the plan was 10 years ago. So we've had the benefit of the most recent census, and we've had the benefit of passage of time, and a lot of things have changed over the last 10 years. So the plan needed to be amended. And where it stands right now, the amendment recommended by the Town Planning Commission to the council for approval has been introduced, and at the council meeting in February, which is the last Monday of the month, the county, or the Union Bridge Town Council will have their hearing on the plan, and they would be in a position to take action on the plan once they've had that hearing. It's been a 12 or 14-month undertaking. We started this in October of 2023, and the Planning Commission acted in December to send this plan to the council. As far as the plan is concerned, the major element, I would say, it's kind of a I don't want to say a downsizing, it's a reconfiguration of the growth area boundary. Again, as I say, the world has changed. There are significant reasons given the practicality of the situation. Union Bridge is handicapped by the fact that it doesn't have wastewater treatment capacity. So if you're going to have a town that needs to get its treatment plant expanded, in today's world, you've got a world of hurt in front of you. So back in 2008, when the plan that we're amending was adopted, the world looked a little bit better. It was, you could look back on it and say it was pretty optimistic where the growth area boundary was and what was envisioned that could happen. So the reconfiguration of the growth area boundary is probably the most significant feature of this particular amendment. On the positive side, internally, as far as the town's concerned, they have ample room within their corporate limits. They probably have more room maybe than any other municipality, undeveloped land within the corporate limits that could be developed. Jackson Ridge, if you're familiar with that, that's Woodhaven, Marty Hill, a whole project that has for over a decade sat there waiting for enough forces to come together to provide, not for them, they would have to build and pay for whatever they're doing, for sure, but the entire town of Union Bridge, which generates 200,000 gallons of flow to a treatment plant that was built in 1962 in the floodplain, has to be replaced at some point. I often think back in 1972 when Agnes hit, or when Eloise hit in 75, maybe it would have been a blessing if it took that plant right out of there. Because then our illustrious governor, whoever he would have been, and our General Assembly would have said, we got to do something. You know, we got a town here and there's no treatment plant there. And that's not, it's really not, I don't mean to take it lightly because it's something that town worries about. It could happen. And it's not like nobody's doing anything, but when it gets down to it, it always does, it gets down to the money. And a lot of other factors in this state particularly that seem to make it extremely difficult to accomplish some of these massive public works projects. But I just mentioned, now I don't want to get too deep into that, but just if there was one single thing to worry about with the town of Union Bridge and its future sustainability, it is its wastewater treatment capacity shortage. Its population has been flat for decades. There were more people in the town in the 1920 census than there are now. And there was no treatment plant there at that time. Everybody was on cesspools at that time, but they did have a water system. So I think you're all familiar, I don't need to describe Union Bridge to you, you're familiar with the town. It's, the people are strong and wonderful, and that they have going for them. The disappointments are there. They lost PNC Bank. Now, the little restaurant that you're all familiar with, that's not open right now. Buttersburg. There's no gas station in Union Bridge. If you look at the real property base of the town and compare it to all the other municipalities, you know, they're the smallest town in the county. So, but they're not underserved people. They would never think in terms of that. They do stuff. Matter of fact, their municipal building, they built that, the town did, by holding pancake dinners at the fire hall. And there's a plaque up in the building from Governor Ehrlich. It's beautifully written, you know, as an example of what people can do even when you're maybe not getting everything going in your direction. But so I think they keep plugging at it. And so as far as back to the plan, and that's what you really wanted to hear about. So we have scoped it down, and in a nutshell, the west portion of the old municipal growth area, which contained Mount Pleasant, which is, you may know it as the Mary Clemson Wilson Farm. It's the Staley property now, Mary's daughter. It's in the Staley family. It's a 200-acre farm. For years, Bill Powell, who was the Ag Preservation Officer, and I tried to get that into the Ag Preservation Program. But unfortunately, we were trying to do that after it had gotten encompassed in this growth area, municipal growth area. And you can't, the law doesn't permit you, at least the state ag preservation program, to take those kinds of properties. That's a prerequisite. You can't be in an area that would get future public water and sewer and put it in an ag preservation area. But this farm will henceforth, when the council acts, be back in, it will be outside the growth area, the municipal growth area. When the county gets around to, which I know you're working toward updating your plan, and you get over into the Union Bridge area, and Daphne and I have talked a little about this, the zoning that's on that farm will probably need to change, some of it. A good part of it, which is in the along Cherry Branch, is conservation. The balance of it was put into R10,000, which in the day was to encourage somebody to develop in there and get higher density, but of course they would need public water and sewer. As I look back on it, I think sometimes you can be grateful for things that you thought you wanted. I would love to see that farm get under ag preservation, and it will be eligible if the council goes with the program that is in front of them. And it will be up, of course, voluntarily up to the Staley family if they wish to put the bulk of that farm in. On the other side of town, you may know the area. I would say if I said to you the Least Brothers area, the area along Ladiesburg Road and back up in there, there's a good bit of industrially zoned land. But it's far away from the public sewer system that exists. There have been difficulties over the year of utilization of that property by the landowner, which had to do with the growth area, the municipal growth area. And so it kind of got into a situation where the town and the county weren't really on the same page over the use that somebody wanted to make of it, which would not have required a public sewer, but because it was inside this municipal growth area, that was the impetus that it should be served with public water and sewer. And the town really couldn't, or the landowner couldn't actually make that work because it wasn't feasible. And then a lot of other land that was zoned conservation all through that area somehow got included. And the county rightfully noted this when the water and sewer plan was being reviewed from time to time, and actually a statement got in there about that ought to be relooked at. So that has been relooked, and that's part of the area that has been dropped back in. In this area, there's no reason to change any zoning that we can see, but that'll be for you to decide. All this land I'm talking about, whether it's Mount Pleasant or what's on over here in the vicinity of the Least Brothers, and it's not just their property, Lehigh has property there. It's unincorporated land. It is not in the town. It would be, presumably, you could look at it as something that would be annexed, presuming that there was some ability to do that for whatever reasons that your town boundary would go out to what you call your municipal growth area. Anyway, I think what we have is a much more realistic land use plan now. At least it matches up with more of the reality of our situation. And probably the topper of it all on the sewer aspect, and this is not a current thing, but in the town, the mayor, the Maryland Department of Planning reiterated in their letter of May 10, 2013 to Mayor Jones, the amount of land, this is a quote, the amount of land already within the town is sufficient to accommodate MDP's population projections for the town. The letter goes on to point out what the focus needs to be on, the most important of which is infrastructure upgrade, meaning wastewater treatment plant. This plan amendment recognizes that fact, that, i.e. that there is ample area within the town for staged orderly development, a significant portion of which has had preliminary plan approval since May of 2006. But without public, state, or federal capital funding assistance required for the current system's users, portion of the new wastewater treatment plant, healthy growth and sustainability are at risk, contrary to state, county, and town visions. So here, Manchester's, Union Bridge is a good pursuer of getting grants And in playing that ball game in this state, you need to be a sustainable community. So the word sustainability is up on the wall. And then you look at the reality of the situation. And so you're saying we've got to make the town sustainable. So you're constantly looking for where you can get the fiscal investment that would make what the Carroll County Master Plan wants to see, the growth in and around municipalities, within the municipality. So here we have a town that's got probably more developable land within its corporate limits, but it can't develop because it doesn't have one of the key facilities. And so they do have some funds that have come to them through the state capital budget. Two sessions, General Assembly sessions ago, I think it was Senator Reedy and probably the whole delegation and were instrumental in getting a capital grant in the state capital budget for $5 million. Now, $5 million doesn't go far in building a treatment plant. So in my mind, I thought of it as an installment, an initial installment. And this, again, the trick here is when you take an old plan offline and you're talking about building a new one, and then you want your town to be sustainable and have some growth. So those are other people that are not there yet. But you have everybody who is there, and back to the 200,000 gallons that the current users are producing. They have, that's the user's responsibility to come up with the money. And then you get down into the rate, well, the rates have to be adjusted, so forth and so on. When New Windsor went through this process, the rates had to go up so high that about 2 years after that plant was built, Delegate Elliott had to get the town $1 million grant in the state capital budget to help offset so they could actually drop the rates back a little bit, because the rate shock was just almost beyond the realm. So and I'm just giving you this perspective that, you know, it's all well and good for all of us to say, let's get the growth in and around the towns. We're absolutely right about that. It's been the county's master plan from day one. Where we've come up short, and I will say, I used to say it when I worked for the county, we don't do enough countywide with our funding to help make that happen. We do a wonderful job with the ag preservation. And I think that was the #1 thing. If you don't save it out there, you'll lose it forever. And I think we're doing one hell of a job on that to date. But the time is coming when, if we're going to have places for people to live and grow, there's got to be more investment and more attention coming into the towns at the county level and then at the state level. And I think back to the treatment plant that's in the floodplain. When that was built, 87% of the money to build that plant came from the federal government. The state put in another 10%, and then the balance was shared between the county and the town. So we as a country must have been a lot more prosperous, or the money that was collected and managed was spent maybe more wisely or directed more wisely. I don't know if it's a problem that money is, that there isn't the money, it's what's happening with the money that's been collected at all levels. But enough of it isn't getting down into where we want it to go. That's all I'm saying. And it's probably not just Union Bridge. I think there are plenty of areas that, other places, and that we'd see so much better and those not such a struggle and such standstills for decades, where a town's population is flat, or worse yet, where you see it starting to go even down, downhill. And if things really got bad, you know, typically, I'm not forecasting this, but what usually happens in a case where somebody's got a treatment plant and they can't run it up to state health department standards or MDE standards, the next level of government usually ends up getting it. The next bigger level of government assumes control. So we could say maybe Hampstead's lucky that we run the treatment plant over there, because at least it's up at that level. They don't have to worry so much about it because the county runs that. And Pleasant Valley is a case in point where the county had to step in and handle some sewage operations over there, a little small plant. Anyway, I will say that beyond this, when you look at the amendment here, I just focused on the biggest one. There were a few land use changes, just a few. Otherwise, we can say that the county land use plan is essentially the same for Union Bridge that it was in 2008. The one change is at the corner of Green Valley Road, or Maryland 75, and North Main, where Vintage Operations is there before you get to the flood zone. That was in the conservation district. Somehow it got in the conservation district, so it was a non-conforming use. The Planning Commission has recommended that go into the general business district, the same as everything else on that side of the road in North Main, going in toward town. The other property is the area that is across the street from the town office, that would be between the substation. If you're familiar with where the substation is, the Potomac Edison substation, and West Locust Street. There's a big field there, and that's the area where the town has an option to purchase land for a new wastewater treatment plant. And they've been budgeting for several years now funds so that they could exercise that option to purchase that property. That property is currently zoned R6. Everything from the substation to the south, where all the new panels are that Citizens UB put in, all the way to Sam's Creek and the Frederick County line, that's all zoned industrial. So this plan calls for this R6000 area right across the street from the town office to be included in the industrial category at the point in time when the town exercises the option to purchase the land. The land use part of it the comprehensive plan will show it as industrial, but it will not change on the zoning until the option is exercised. Those are the only changes to the entire zoning. So, other than that, I think I've gone on long enough. Usually you cut people off at 3 minutes. If there's any questions you have, I'll be more than happy to try to answer them.
Well, thank you. I certainly recall you when you were here at the county. So it's good to see you back and still working.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Huff, this is your area. Do you have any questions?
I just wonder how, because, you know, New Windsor's built one plant, and now they're, of course, they're looking at re-upping their plant again, which they said's a total new rebuild if they redo it, because they can't get it to the specs of the state now, even though they just built that one 15, 20 years ago, I think. My question always was, I asked them before, it's like, in the day's world, pumping's not that hard. Why don't the two towns ought to work together to build a plant and try to get money from MDE? Because I know they're allotted a certain amount of funds per capita or per gallon of usage. But managing two small plants that close to one another seems like a waste to me. But
Yeah, and the new plant has to carry on until the new one is built.
Yep.
Then that has to be removed, and and as the years go by, the numbers just seem to get bigger and bigger, and the studies keep happening, and they know right now. I mean, there's been a study that actually the state paid for the bulk of the study. And it gets down to, okay, what the design of the plant would be, and there are decisions to make on, you know, do we have to set it up so that once this gets going, we would assume Jackson Ridge would be coming in, so the thing has to be designed so that it can be expanded, and then these other areas that would develop then, once there's capacity, that's gonna start happening. But it's at the end of this study, we're at another standstill, because every time the General Assembly gets ready to meet, you know, they put the word out that this is not the year to be looking for any money. You know, I mean, we got problems, you know, with the blueprint, with this, with that, the other thing, don't, you know. So it's.
Well, that's standard, I think.
It can be discouraging, but what the town does, I think this is where I give them credit, in the face of that, they just keep on going. So I anticipate they will get the land so that they have a place to put this thing. And then I think, like often can happen sometimes when you least expect it, something does happen, and it'll break this sort of chain. And don't think for a minute, there isn't a little, what do I want to call it? It's not, generally if you polled people in Union Bridge, most people would say they could feel good about a little growth. You know, they're not against it. They're not anti-growth. But people who work in a small government like that, they probably have the most apprehension, because they know what it means. You know, when you start talking about a bigger treatment plant, and then development starting to happen, all these processes, because most everything in Union Bridge is handled on contract. There is a clerk, Dawn Metcalf, who does a wonderful job, and some other employees, but they contract everything, not just legal. And that's, you know, what I've been helping them with, and there are other people other than me. So for little towns, Union Bridge is a real good example of the struggle.
Well, we certainly appreciate you giving us all the information. Any other questions?
Ned, what is the zoning on the Bowman property? The zoning on the Bowman property?
That is zoned R10.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's you're thinking of like what was called the villages that was proposed in there. And that property there was a schematic plan for that with 504 units that could be in there. The Warmold Company. And another one, they're trying to sell it now because when they first got into it, I think they anticipated that, somewhere along the line, something would happen. It's amazing, Jackson Ridge, which would be another 380 units in there, plus a commercial area along Green Valley Road out on the front. They even built, they drilled a well, and there's provided the water there, and they keep that thing active. It's not hooked up yet all this time. And every year they have to come in to the Planning Commission and get their preliminary plan approval recertified.
Yeah.
So that they can not have to start over, because the stormwater management ball game was one thing when they got their approval, and today it's another ball game. And Martin Covington has made it absolutely clear, to the Planning Commission and to Woodhaven that's so critical. The idea of having to start that all over again is, mind-boggling. And it would be somebody entirely new but there, all these years, you've got a developer who would be ready to front-end his portion of the cost. And I think Marty even looked at whether he could do more than that and helping the town with their portion of the upgraded new plant. And the numbers just wouldn't work. And then when Warmold showed up, we thought, now you got two. Is there any chance we can get three parties together here and make that happen? And every single time it looked like maybe there's a chance the economy would take a dip. And then everything, cooled off. So we ride the wave of ups and downs in the greater economy. And,
you never know. Maybe tomorrow, one day.
If I could make, this is my last, I know I'm keeping you. On the county participating and helping with the amendment that we've been working on, they've been great. And Corey White, I don't know if Corey gets down here in front of you guys. She's a GIS whiz, and she's helped us update 18 separate maps that are in this amendment. In our 2008 plan, all those maps have been updated. So the map work is good, and she's been wonderful, and it just, it'll be great when we finally get this resolved, and then we'll have copies all around once we get to that point. So
We look forward to seeing that. So, is there any public comment? No, seeing none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Number 9. 9. Secretary Daley.
Number 9. Well, I actually think that number 9, the data handbook, will be a relatively short item.
Knock on some wood. You're gonna say that.
And here's why. Because you did just get this data handbook tonight. It's in your master plan binder, thanks to Gail. But it's about a 100-page document full of charts and graphs and all kinds of information. So what I would like to do, with your permission, is just give you sort of an overview of what's contained in here, and then schedule another item to do a little bit of a presentation and then have some discussion once you've had a chance to kind of flip through this and see what's
I
in there.
am fine with that.
You don't
All
want to
right.
go page by page?
Sure.
I didn't think I would get a lot of pushback. Okay, so let me give you an overview of what you'll find in this data handbook part 2. So if you remember, the first part was focused on a lot of sort of community statistics, I'll say. Things related to population and demographic trends and projections, things related to community health and education and housing. So what you see in part 2 is really more focused on sort of county services and county functions to help sort of round out the picture of what the development and land use picture is here in the county. So it touches on 5 key areas: transportation, public safety, land use and development, infrastructure, and then we also have some farm demographics that go in there sort of as a follow-up to the land use and development information. If you turn to page 3 of the, this is in the introduction, we've pulled out a few key highlights from the data. So I'll just direct your attention especially to those. Some of this information is just information. As we've said before, the pulling together of the data handbook is really to provide data, information, points of reference for you as we're going through the master plan process. If you're wondering, where are we in terms of some of our public safety facilities, or what does the picture look like in terms of our parks and rec? Those sorts of things. This is an easy way for you to get some kind of highlights of those areas. It's not meant to be exhaustive, but you do see some information repeated in here that you'll find in other documents. So in this part 2 in particular, you'll see some budgetary information. You'll see information that that you just heard from Laura Matthias about, related to concurrency management and the adequacy of different facilities and services. So I'm hoping that a lot of this isn't brand new to you, but again, this is a way of sort of pulling it into one place for easy reference. So with that, I'll just ask if there are any general questions about sort of what we're trying to accomplish with the data handbook, and then we'll anticipate coming back to you with a more formal presentation and some time for discussion.
Gentlemen? No? Commissioner Gordon, you're
got
quiet
nothing.
tonight.
I'm just looking.
I don't hear anything, so. I think
All right,
we would be good with that.
excellent.
So, thank you for that abbreviated. So, any public comment? Okay, any general public comment? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. See you on the 18th.